Hi guys, it's me, Lauren Gell, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so happy that you're here to hang out with me. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and follow. Do all those fun things down below. And if you can't tell by the title of the video, and also with my hair thrown back, we're here for serious business. And we're going to be playing around with the amazing Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Moonlight palette. And this is what she looks like. Very, very pretty. Very, very cool tones. We're here for it. I am still wounded from battle. I've said this before, but I was cooking dinner one night and I cut my finger open on a can of corn. And yeah, sliced it really bad. So this is my handy dandy doctor work. So it is also going to be featured in this video. I apologize in advance. I couldn't wait. I wanted to play with this palette, so let's dive in. Sorry, I'm being extra because I have so much energy. I woke up from a fat nap. That's what we're doing in today's video. Gonna be playing with this palette. And then, yeah, so if you're into that, definitely keep watching. And yeah, let's dive in. Okay, so I brightened up the camera settings a little bit. Hopefully it helps. This is the Moonlight palette. It was inspired by the Moonlight. That's what Mario says. And there's some really pretty shiny shades in here. Cool tones. There is like 2 warm tones in here. So I think that balances out the palette a little bit. But then there's this really pretty like blue duochrome toppery shades. So, and the cool thing about these shades is that they're not named anything besides like EM1, EM2, and so on and so forth. So, information about this. This is a $68 eyeshadow palette. You get 12 shades in here ranging from mattes to toppery shades, and a couple of new ones in here like this like metallic. And it's inspired by Moonlight, so really interested in it. I think that this does capture the like Moonlight sparkle. This is the second installment in his like limited time eyeshadow palettes for Ethereal Lights. The one was a more warm tone neutral palette. I actually owned that one when he relaunched it last year, and I actually wound up getting rid of it because I felt like the mattes in there almost blended together and kind of into nothing. So I'm really interested to see, because there are some like deeper tones in here, if that's gonna work better. I'm gonna swatch it from like top to bottom, like left to right, top to bottom. But because my finger is a boo-boo, I'm going to kind of just do it down here and swatch it on this hand. So EM1 is this like just beige shade, my like lid color basically, but it has a little bit of a glitter shimmer to it. The second shade is EM2, and this one is that icy kind of blue shade. We'll swatch it here. Oh, that has a lot of like base color to it, more than I thought. An icy white with a blue reflect. So that's actually really pretty. EM3 is, I would say it's like your standard taupey shade. And then I'm going to do so bad with these swatches. But there's that shade. Just a taupe, really pretty. I love a good taupe, so I'm not mad about it. And then EM4 is this like gunmetal, which I don't own a gunmetal in my collection, so I'm super excited. I just swatched that on top. Wow, that's actually really pretty. EM5 is more of just a neutral brown. Looks like that. I'm definitely going to run out of space, but I'm still going to do this. Looks a little similar to this. This one's definitely a little bit more cool toned, but between the two, I'm not sure. Like this one definitely has more like brown warmth to it. This one has a little bit more of like a mauve, but I'm curious to see how that actually reflects on the eyelid. EM6 is more of this like gold sparkle, which I'm super excited about. This one, I've swatched these so bad. That's pretty. I like that one a lot. It's gold with like a silver reflect in it. EM7 is kind of like a gunmetal bronze. I don't know how to describe that one. It's not gunmetal, I guess. It's definitely more of that bronze. That's really pretty. I will say all of these toppery shades, they have more base pigment to them than the original Ethereal Eyes. I will say that. So again, I think you're going to get more depth with the shimmers in here too. EM8 is this like cool toned gray. Ooh. Ooh, that's rich. EM9 is this chocolatey brown. And I am doing 3 swirls per pan, just to kind of pick up that pigment too, so keep that in mind. They do have a little bit of patchiness in them, but I think that's honestly just me being bad at swatching. But that is a really pretty chocolatey brown. EM10, I would say this is more of like a pewter shade. I'm running out of space. Yeah, that's more of a pewter for sure. That's going to look really pretty with like the mauve-y tone up here. And then I'm going to change gears and I'm going to swatch EM 11 and 12 right here. EM 12 or 11 is the navy blue in here. That looks so pretty. And then I'm going to swatch here. Ooh. That's a really pretty navy blue. And then EM 6 or 12, not 6, is just a black, a really, really deep, intense black. Yeah, did you see the amount of pigment from that? That's an intense black. And I appreciate having a black in this palette because that's going to add so much depth. That's really a lot of where the depth comes from. But yeah, this is the entire palette swatched very, very poorly. All of it felt good. I will say his formula is a little bit drier than what I'm used to, but I'm interested. I'm really feeling doing like a cool tone look, trying out that blue, maybe that gunmetal, and just really having some fun with it. So I already have my lids set and primed and all of that fun stuff. So let me dive in. Let me get these swatches off my hands and then we'll get started. Okay, I'm back. I had to clean my brushes because they're long overdue and I haven't had a like actual day off from work. So that's happening when I do get that. Again, here's the palette. I think I'm going to really play with like this side of the palette first because this half of the palette's calling to me. So I'm going to go in with this more transition-y shade first, which is EM3. And I'm going to take probably my favorite brush in my collection. Give it a fair chance. Because I'm a little apprehensive. But I got this palette for like $40. It's because we had a really good associate discount going on. So I'm going to tap into it. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but you can kind of see there's a lot of kick up happening. I did 2 taps. I'm going to go and do a 3rd tap. I'm going to tap it off, which I always do with any of my palettes, and then we're just going to go in. And I am looking down. Okay, that didn't place any kind of eyeshadow. Okay, let's try this again. What? I know someone on TikTok who does makeup, creates makeup content for a living. She said to pat and then swipe. So maybe that's what I need to do. Kind of treat it like a pressed pigment first, which I do think that more pigment's laying down as I press it in more than swiping. It's a very faint color compared to like what is in the pan, I would say. But I'm going to build this up. This is probably what, the 3rd or 4th time I'm going in. I think that's pretty built up. I am going to try and blend out closer to my brow bone here. I'm going to take a little bit of the first shade here, that like beige. Just use this to kind of balance it out, blend it out a little bit, and see like where we're going here. Okay, let me switch brushes. I'm going to give it a fair chance. This one picked up more, so let me see. This is why it confuses me. I want to love these palettes, but again, for like $70, where's the pigmentation? And I know these are supposed to be like softer, more ethereal, but I mean, come on. So it's there. I'll give it that. It's there. I'm going to go in with this like gray tone and see what happens. I'm a wee bit nervous, but if it doesn't really show much pigment, then I shouldn't be too worried. This is definitely giving a little bit more pigment to it, which I want to do a pretty smoky eye, so building up these shadows and layers is not going to be that big of a problem. I would have to do this anyways to make sure it's all cohesive and blends properly. So I'm going to blend this kind of into that first shade I put down. And that layered really pretty on top of each other. Okay, that is like the pigment I was kind of wanting from this palette. I'm going to go back into that like beige. I kind of like that this beige has a bit of sparkle in it. It's just a little bit of a highlight, but it's not like crazy. It gives kind of like a natural glow radiant effect to the eyelid. I'm happy with that. Now, I have to play with the blue, right? I have to go in with this blue. So I'm going to take a little like packing brush like this. I'm going to tap in. I'm going to do one tap first. And see, now there's pigment behind this eyeshadow, but my real interest is to see if with this pigment will there be patchiness. And I'm not seeing anything so far. And I'm just doing soft little packing motions to get the shade on my lid first. And then I'm going to bring this further in a little bit, which I'm kind of going to cover up most of it. I just wanted to see, put as many colors on my eyelid as possible from the second half of the palette here. That packed on really nicely, but I did have to kind of build it up still. I'm going to go in with the tiniest little tap of it to lightly buff it in my crease here where it meets that gray. And I think that that's blending together very, very pretty. And I will say, compared to the first palette that he relaunched in this line, that palette, all the shades to me blended into nothing. This palette is definitely giving a little bit more depth, a little bit more blending power. And with each shade, there is pigment there. You just have to kind of pack it and build it. But I will say this is a little patchy. I'm having to go back in. And it's like sticking in my crease. It's really weird. But right here, it's like not sticking down. And this is the thing that I found an issue with the first palette is I really had to go in and try and like force it onto the lid. But then once you put so much shadow on, it doesn't like, it like gets to a point where it can only blend and pack on. It's like the other shadows so much. After that, there is no more building it up. I will say though, that finally stuck. So I really like this. Very smoky, very pretty. I definitely want to play with the gunmetal in here. So I'm just going to use my finger for that. And I'm going to lay that down here. Ooh, that's pretty. I think adding this matte or this metallic gunmetal in here was such a good call because it pairs so well with the black and the blue and the gray tone. I'm just going to lightly put this all over my eye because why not? And then it just blends into that gunmetal. I'm going to go back in with a little bit more of my gray and just diffuse out the crease a little bit. That is really, really pretty. I'm liking it. I'm liking the smokiness. Okay, now the fun part, I have to put this blue icy toppery shade on. Here's the thing. He goes in on his like social media with like a kind of like a packing brush. I don't own his brushes, so I'm curious to see if this actually works. Normally I use my finger, but I feel like he just like picks it up and then glides it on with a dry brush. And it kind of works. But I'm going to go on with my finger and just see if I can build it up a little bit more. Yeah, see, it just, I feel like the oils in your finger pick up that and place it so much better. I'm going to go back in and add a little bit more of my navy blue back into my outer V just to give it that dimension back. And I'm also going to go in and buff my crease a little bit. Now I'm curious to see how flaky and fallouty this gets because if I remember correctly, the first palette, it got everywhere. And this, you probably can't tell, but there's a bunch of glitter down here. So if you're using the glitters in here, either use a glitter glue or do your eyes first. But that's the first eye. I'm going to do my other eye off camera. I'm going to do my face and then we'll come back. So I will be back momentarily. Stay tuned. My lighting is wild. But I am back. My powdered face is done. I finished this eye off camera. The patting motions worked a lot better on this side, and I was able to like kind of really whip this look out really easily. But let me do my under eyes. I think I'm going to do relatively the same shadows. So I'm going to start with the blue. I need to get new brushes. But these little Wet n Wild ones, these little smudge brushes, or maybe this was e.l.f. No, this is e.l.f. smudging brush, are so good for under the eye. I love them. I've used them for years for this exact purpose. Because they're so thin that they're so easy to get close to the eye. Okay. And then I just kind of connect it. I'm going to do it on the same, I'm going to do it on this side too. And then I always flick up near the V, like the outer V, to connect it. Okay. I'm going to go back through and kind of just pack a little bit more of this on. Yes, queen. And then I'm going to use a smaller brush, like a pointed definer brush. I'm going to go into the gray shade that I used for my crease. I'm going to try and smudge it out. I'm interested to see how these smudge out under the eye, which they're doing great, but just with like a more precise brush, they smudge really well, these eyeshadows. It's when you take a fluffy brush that they tend to have a little bit more trouble. So with the fluffy brush, I've got to like focus and pack it on versus like little quick swipe motions like I'm doing under my eye, which is interesting. And I'm making this really dramatic because I want it to be a very, very smoky eye, which I look insane, but it's fine. And to balance that out a little bit, I'm going to go into the first shade I tried to use in my crease, which didn't give me much color, but I think that this is going to blend this out really nicely. Yep. Just that added little bit of blend to tie it all together. And because I'm kind of a lunatic, I am going to take a little bit of the like beige cream shade, whatever you want to call it. It's literally the color of my eyelid. I'm going to take that and just kind of go under and around and just do this as like a finishing touch, which I do with every look. And for some reason, I don't have this blended up here, so let me do that real quick too. I was looking a little splotchy right there for a second. For my inner corner, I want to take the blue, but I also don't want it to get everywhere. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll take my KVD Dazzle Stick. This is in the shade Dusk Rush. It's like this like purpley tone. I'm going to try that with a little brush and then top it with the blue shade and try it that way. Because this is more of like a cream shadow, I think it's going to help out a lot more. I just have to find the right kind of brush. It is a bit dark for my inner corner, but I'm hoping that when I put the blue on top, it adheres and brightens it up. But this does also have a bit of a blue undertone to it, or a blue shift, I should say. And then I'm going to take that same brush and just pick up the moon dust, the blue, and see about packing that on. Yeah. That works a lot easier, which I figured. In hindsight, I probably would use glitter glue with these shimmery shadows. I'm not getting any fallout now since I did my eyes first, but if you were to like go back in and touch up the shimmer on your eyes, I guarantee you'd get some fallout. So that's the only thing to be careful of. My eyes are done. On my brow bone, I did put a little bit of my Broken Fenty highlighter, by the way. That's what that more shine is up there. I'm going to finish off my face and then come back and we'll do final thoughts and then wrap up the video. So, toodaloo. Okay, so we have the finished look. I did choose a pink lip and I kind of low-key feel like a clown, but I don't hate it. Anyways, let me just kind of give you my final thoughts on this real quick. So, I created this look using the Moonlight palette from the Ethereal Eyes line from Makeup by Mario. Final thoughts. This palette alone gives you so much more depth than the original Ethereal Eyes palette. Overall, the formula, it's a lot drier. Makeup by Mario, I think, just has a drier formula because I've swatched his all matte palettes and stuff, and they feel a little bit more dry than like what I'm used to and what I prefer. But that doesn't take away from this being a pretty palette. And once I figured out like how to utilize it, it turned out beautiful. I love this look. And I do think that this is a palette I can get a lot of use out of. And the toppery shades in here, they have more pigment, like base pigment to them. Like, for example, this shade, but still that really ethereal, reflective, toppery shadow that we like to see. And essentially what this palette's all about and known for. So you get more depth with the toppery shimmers as well. Granted, I only used one of them on my eye, but I can tell this one's going to pull a little more gold. These two might look a little bit more similar, but I think pairing them with cool tones versus warm tones is really going to bring out the, like, the warmth of this shade, the neutralness of this shade and the cooler tone of this shade. Overall, I actually like this palette more than the previous one, which is crazy because the previous one was all neutrals. But I will say, if you like a creamier consistency from your mattes and you want a little more pigment from the shimmers, then this might not be the palette for you. I don't think this is worth $70. I really don't. His price points are, to me, a little all over the place. Because, for instance, his foundation, I love his foundation. This is $42. The concealer is $30. And then this is $70. What's the retail value of his other palettes? I'm not sure. But I just feel like his eyeshadow pricing is a little more expensive than what the brand usually gives to the consumer. And I think that this is not a $70 palette. Now, I don't know how expensive it is to make the toppery shades, but they are similar to like the Urban Decay ones, but the Urban Decay ones are still my favorite of this kind of toppery, super sparkly formula because these are a little bit more dry. I know that these retail for $24 alone. So if you want some of those like toppery shadows, but you don't want to justify the price point of the Urban Decay ones, then this might be the route to go because you do get those like toppery finishes, high shine, glossy, wet finishes, but you get like some really pretty mattes and stuff in here too. I honestly am not gonna lie, I wish this palette was, instead of a 12 pan, I wish it was a 15 pan. I know that was gonna make it more expensive, but I just wish that there were 3 more of these metallics in here because this is a really, really pretty, really rich shimmer. And I just want a few more of those. So if he could make a palette with maybe some mattes and these in there, I would be excited. But overall, this is beautiful. I like the look and I like how the eye turned out today once I kind of figured out how to utilize it. There's a little bit of learning curve, and for $70, I think that's a little crazy that you have to like have a learning curve for it. But then again, like Natasha Denona eyeshadow is a learning curve itself. So I don't know. I always compare things to Natasha Denona because it's my favorite. So for $69, you can get a Natasha Denona palette, 15 eyeshadows, a lot of depth, very interesting color story, very unique shimmer formulas. There's a couple different kinds in the palette itself. Then there's different shades and different kind of formulas in each palette. I think that those kinds of palettes are way better value than something like this. I love this for getting it for like $42 on sale just because of working in a beauty store, and I'm very grateful that I have that discount to be able to like get luxury eyeshadows for a fraction of the price. But for $70, I probably would have been critiquing this a lot harder, if that makes sense. So this palette, I think if it was priced at $50, would have made more sense, would have been a little bit more comfortable of a price tag for something like this because it is only 12 eyeshadows. But I know that those high shine toppery shades are an expensive formula, so that's probably why. But overall, not bad. I definitely like this more than the original. I think that about wraps it up for me. Long-winded to say it's an okay palette. Like, you don't need it, but if you think it's going to add value to your collection, it is worth it at a discount. And the best way you're going to get a discount on this is during the Sephora sale. So if you want this, try to grab it as soon as possible. But I don't know, there's other palettes on the market that will do just as good, I think, or if not better. Anyways, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. So I appreciate you hanging out with me. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, subscribe, and follow. Do all those things down below. I would greatly appreciate it. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you're interested in. If you've already picked it up, what are your thoughts on it? Let's get the chat going. I would greatly appreciate it because I want to know other people's opinions on it. And yeah, I think that's about it for me. So I hope you have a great day, night, whenever you're watching this. And I'm sure I'll see you in another one. So bye!